Folks, this is John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru, coming to you on a hot but somewhat pleasant and breezy day. And today I wanted to talk to you about the principle of value added. I've thought a lot about how to convey the message that we should document medical necessity. And to illustrate that, I wanted to bring up a little case study. So I discharged a patient today in home health. The patient has CHF. And when I originally saw her, I identified balance, cardiovascular, and strength deficits. But mainly because of her cardiovascular status and because she was somewhat symptomatic, I mostly identified the endurance and the balance as things I wanted to address that impacted her functionality. And so I worked with her for 5 total visits. And it was clear that I was not making any impact. In fact, she's been slowly, regressively progressing. In other words, she's been degressing, which is the wrong direction to go in. And it's pretty clear that her CHF is advancing to a stage where probably end-of-life matters are of most importance to her. And there was going to be no need for me to work on balance and her endurance, because neither one was going to be impacted by me. The endurance was mainly related to secondary muscle weakness due to decreased cardiovascular endurance. And looking at her cardiovascular parameters, it was clear that she was not tolerating much of anything above just some active range of motion and just getting around to go to the bathroom and go to bed and things like that. That was it. And so I had asked myself at that point, what kind of value can I add to this lady? And it was pretty clear that I was not adding value. In fact, I was just being a very expensive sitter while she did some exercise. Now, I did obviously provide a lot of education for her and the caregiver, and I talked about with them like rate of perceived exertion, because her heart rate, her blood pressure, her pulse oximetry did not tell an adequate picture of her cardiovascular status. I also educated both the patient and the caregiver on orthopnea, or shortness of breath when you're lying down, which is generally going to be a sign of left-sided ventricular failure. And so we talked about how to position for most effective breathing while she was trying to get some sleep. But once I was done with those things, I had to ask myself, okay, I'm not adding value from a rehabilitation perspective, so can I justify maintenance therapy? So that's going to be my default. If I'm not making progress with the patient, then I have to ask the question of, is my skill of such complexity that only I could safely and effectively deliver care to maintain her where she's at? And the answer was clearly no. She had a very attentive caregiver who used to be a CNA, who was able to follow up with her safely and effectively and monitor her. She also continued to have nursing in on the case, who was probably moving towards palliative care anyway. And so at that point, I had to say, I'm not adding any value. And so I went ahead and discharged the patient. That's the single visit. Am I adding value to this patient's life? Is the service that I'm providing so valuable that if there wasn't a third-party payer involved, could I honestly charge the patient for it? You know, those are the kind of questions that we do want to ask when we're in on any case and whether we're trying to determine whether we should continue care. Anyway, this has been John Adamson, the Rehab and Documentation Guru, giving you another way maybe to consider what's medically necessary care and the words reasonable and necessary. And if you found this helpful, please like. If you haven't, please subscribe. And if you have any suggestions for future videos, please put a comment down below. I'd really appreciate it. Take care and God bless.